Nkonki's fourth annual Audit Committee Conference happens next week against the backdrop of one of the biggest corporate scandals in living memory, VW's emissions test cheating. And it raises fresh questions around the role and effectiveness of audit committees. Here to talk to us about next week's events and whether the VW scandal might loom large over it, a big black cloud perhaps, is Mitesh Patel, Nkonki's lead partner for listed companies. Hi there, Mitesh.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Okay, not too bad.
How does the VW scandal colour the conversation around the audit committee and its role?
Michael, firstly, just quickly, the audit committee, the conference is taking place on the 12th of October. It's our fifth conference and it's going to be focusing, like you said, on the JSE listed companies. Coming back to the VW, I think one of the biggest things that we're trying to show at this conference is the oversight responsibility of audit committees. And you'll see some of the topics that we're bringing on board is going to be talking to that specifically in terms of transparency of the auditors, which Dan Montgomery, who is the deputy chairman of the IASP, is going to be talking about the new international reporting standard, or the new auditors report. And part of that new audit report, one of the things that's coming up is the transparency or the increased transparency, audit quality, and the enhanced information value that needs to take place on the actual report itself. Things like the key audit matters are going to be discussed in this discussion, where the significant judgment of auditors needs to be disclosed in that report and how that was addressed. So I think it's definitely on the backdrop of that VW scandal, and obviously this will play a major role as part of that discussion.
Because we know that the responsibility of the audit committee has certainly been extended beyond just pure financial reporting to include things like sustainability reporting. We've got the Sustainable Development Goals, which also include the private sector in a way that the Millennium Development Goals didn't. So increasingly, we're going to have an audit committee that is very adept and mindful of its role within this broader framework.
Yeah, Michael, what you said is you hit the nail on the head. But I think what we also need to look at is when you look at the conference itself, and we're talking about sustainability as one of the aspects of the reporting. We're now also moving towards a fourth bottom line reporting, which is the international speaker, Dr. Derek Yach, who's going to be talking to us about that. And that's also talking about the health and well-being of employees and how we measure that health matrix into the current economy of South Africa, because we're losing about 16 billion rands in terms of absenteeism with regards to sick employees in inverted commas.
Yeah.
So we're also going to try and bring that into the conversation to make sure that this is something new that's coming out in the industry and how a company is adopting to it.
And it's so key. We've had Dr. Derek Yach on the program before. Yes. He's done some amazing work for the Vitality Institute. He also looks at all kinds of interesting elements in society, food and water, supply chains, and the like. Who else is on the cards, and how can listeners find out more about the event?
Okay, so our event, like I said, it's going to be happening on the 12th of October at the Rosebank Hyatt. We've got very interesting speakers. The first one I've mentioned earlier was Dan Montgomery, who's going to be talking to us about the new auditor's report. We've also got the JSE CFO Arti Takurdin and the Microsoft South Africa CFO Paul Martin, who's going to be taking us through finance transformation. And it's an interesting topic that as well, because they're going to be talking about the fact that we don't want to get into this persistent focus on mechanics that is relatively few companies are using technology to support effective approaches, and teaching the audience what they've done in their organizations in terms of using technology to create effectiveness, and that frees up the finance function to add value to the organization strategically. We then got Nigel Payne, who's going to be talking about the effectiveness of an audit com. Nigel's experience is very in-depth, and he's going to be basically showing the audit committee members what the effective oversight role of an audit committee should be. And then, as you mentioned, Dr. Derek Yach, and we're going to basically be probing him to come up, to give us more explanation around the goal that is established, the goal that the U.S., the Vitality Institute in the U.S. has made, which is to establish the workforce health matrix as an integral indicator overall of overall organization performance. And I think the broader corporate accountability framework will be done by about 2020. So I'm hoping he's going to take us through that in a lot of detail. And then there's a panel discussion from the Discovery Health CFO, Mr. Brett Trump, who's going to lead that and basically talk to us about what happened in SADC in January 2015, where all the health ministers actually endorsed the fourth bottom line reporting. And then we've got two of our own specialists in Nkonki, Ahmed Pando, who's a cybersecurity specialist, and it's obviously a critical discussion point that everyone has to know about because of all the hacking and the type of feedback taking place in the technology environment. And Tuto Masasa, who is basically our integrated reporting specialist, also within an Nkonki environment, taking them through the local and global insights of integrated reporting.
So very, very topical there, Mitesh. Sorry, I've got to cut in there because we're eating into our time. That was Mitesh Patel, Nkonki's lead partner for listed companies, sharing what's on the agenda at next week's Audit Committee Conference in Sandton. We're going to be trying to bring you some of those conversations. Look forward to chatting to Dr. Derek Yak again and maybe to Dan Montgomery as well. You're listening to Classic Business.